Today we're going to go through the process of combining the weapon component system with the advanced locomotion system. Currently, the advanced locomotion system is available for the month for free on the Epic Store, but if you were downloading the one from last month, you would also have the weapon component system. So we're going to go through from beginning to end, get it all created. It will work. I'm not going to go through and try to fix things that I look and say, okay, maybe that's not right on either of the systems. We're just going to get them combined. So let's go and go through the process of first, you'll want to open up the weapon component system. You'll need to have them installed to start in 2 different folders. And then we're going to do a migrate to bring all the weapon component files. I like to take the weapon component files and put them into the advanced locomotion system. You might be able to do it the other way, but I've always found that bringing things into the advanced locomotion system just brings less headaches later. So go ahead and choose migrate on the top folder, so where it says weapon component. It's going to then say, okay, choose all files. And then you'll want to select inside of the advanced locomotion folder. So I have here one that I made, a folder. Go to the content, hit select folder, and then it's going to copy all those files over. So now you will have all of the weapon component files in the advanced locomotion systems folders. And you can start combining those. So the first thing that I always do is get my skeletons down to 1 skeleton, just because you have an issue with animations and everything else. You can't start combining these things without doing that. So let's go ahead and open up both of those skeletons. If you in the weapon component system, it's under mannequin and then mesh. And then under the advanced locomotion, it is under characters and then mannequin. So let's look at these two and see what the difference is. Pretty much the ALS system has the virtual bones in there. I always make the habit of combining over to the ALS skeleton. It is a few more steps. You might be able to do the other way, but I haven't tried it that way, so I'd rather not test that for the first time on this. Plus, this will take you through the process of how you would integrate other systems, because once you've done one, that's going to be your skeleton that you choose from there on out. So you will notice that there's probably sockets in whatever system you're trying to bring over. So here, they've got a socket for the right hand. They've got sockets for each of the weapons to be holstered on the back, and then a holster on the hip. So let's go ahead and right-click on the hand socket, hit Copy Selected Socket, and then you'll want to take note of the upper right-hand side where it says Bone Name. Go to the bone name, and you'll see hand_R. So you need to find that on the ALS skeleton, right-click on it, and then paste sockets to selected bone. Now you have an identical socket there, just like in the weapon component, and you'll want to do that for the other 2 sockets as well. So right-click the holster for the right spine, and take note it's on spine _03. So paste to selected bone. Do the same thing with the left holster spine, copy selected socket, and also take note spine _03. Okay, so now you have those 2. They do have previews, so let's go ahead and add the previews just so you can see that those are correct. And then we'll do the holster for the hip. So rifle is the one for the right. So just right-click on that socket, hit Add Preview Socket in the search type rifle. And you will see that it lines up exactly the same as it did on the other skeleton. So we will want to do the same thing. We're going to do the FP gun. So right-click on that socket, add previous socket. Let's type FP gun. Try it again. All right, so now you have both of those. So now we'll want to bring in that holster socket. That is to thigh_R. So copy that. And if you don't want to have to browse through, if you're having trouble finding one of these, just type it in search up there in the top, and then you'll be able to put it there. So now we have the holster socket as well. And that pretty much makes these two identical as far as what's unique about this skeleton. So go ahead and close the weapon component skeleton, save the ALS mannequin skeleton, and then you'll want to, one thing you could have done is hit browse on the weapon component and it would take you right to this folder, but just select under the weapon component, under mannequin, mesh, choose that UE4_mannequin_skeleton and hit delete. Now what this is going to do is give you the option to replace that skeleton with another one in the system. We have here ALS mannequin skeleton, and so we're going to want to select that, and all the animations, the aim offsets, the anim blueprints, whatever's using this animation or this skeleton is now going to swap it out, and it'll start working with the other one. So then you could go back and forth and bring in animations to the other system. So go ahead and hit replace. Hit save selected. It's going to save the two things that you worked on directly. But one important thing is right click on the top folder where it says content and then fix up redirectors and folders. You'll find that for some reason, Unreal, I guess to save time or to make things happen in a certain way, they like to just do pointers, kind of like shortcuts to the changes they made. This actually puts the things in place so that when you're working with the files, you don't get weird errors, especially if Unreal crashed at this point in time. That wouldn't be good. So now we have one skeleton between the two systems. Another thing that you could do, because these mannequins are going to be pretty much identical, just delete the SK_mannequin that's under weapon component, choose the mannequin that's under the ALS system, hit replace. Okay, you can then delete that physics asset. I like to clean up as I go and not leave things around. If you get an error when you try to delete that, once again, that's the fix up redirectors. There's a file still in there that it hasn't moved just because it's trying to save time. Hit delete now, and that'll let you delete it. They have a few extra folders that make it difficult. Usually in projects, you'll be able to just delete the materials that are for the body of the mannequin. You can do that, but the textures, some of them are shared, and so you'll find that you can't delete them all because they're using them for other things in the weapon system, probably for the demo. So I'll just delete the ones that I can. This is not required. I just don't like having duplicate or unused files sitting around that I don't need. So clean that up. All right, so now we pretty much do not have any other skeletons other than one under the locomotion system. So let's go ahead and start working on the process of combining these two packs. So go to the blueprints for each one. First, let's start with the locomotion. And I could combine this down. I'm going to leave the mannequin character there for now. It's not going to hurt anything. We'll just ignore it and act as if it's not even there. You could combine these two. I could take it through that process, but it's not really required. And I don't want to make an extra step where someone might make a mistake and then have everything not work. So let's go ahead and just open up the ALS base character. And then you'll also want to open up the blueprint under weapon component blueprints. There's my character. You will notice that under the my character, there's some errors because we did merge into the locomotion system. So under project settings, some of the inputs that they have are not named the same, which is fine because we will actually fix those later in the process. You don't really need to worry about that. But one thing we do want to do is we want to go through and start creating the variables that we're going to need for from the weapon component system, and we're going to need them in the ALS-based character because one main thing is some of them need to be replicated, some of them don't. So we need to make sure that when we go through there, that we don't create a variable on the fly and then it's not replicating properly. We want to keep this compatible. One setting that he does suggest that you change, so let's go and select the mesh here. And he has a setting under optimization. It actually in his tutorial, it's under a different place, but it seems like in a recent version of Unreal that it's actually been changed. So where it says visibility-based anim tick option, which I think used to be named visibility. Well, I don't remember. It was named something else in a previous one. But if you're using, this is 4.22 that I'm doing it on. So you want to pick always tick pose and refresh bones. So that's important to do that for the weapon component system to work properly. So under mesh, under optimization, visibility-based anim tick options, select always tick pose and refresh bones. All right, now we're going to go ahead and start creating some of these variables. So what we want to start with is creating 3 categories. So if you just select a blank area of the screen, we just need somewhere to kind of make variables really quick. So hit C, that creates a comment. And we're going to create one called replicated. I'm going to duplicate this a few times just so that we have, because we're going to be doing 3 total. So this one is going to be rep notify. And then we're going to have one that's not replicated. All right, so let's go ahead and we'll make these a little bit bigger because we're going to start bringing variables into here. So the first one, you're going to notice under current status is where these are going to be located. And we're going to drag the ones that are most important here into replicated, and then we will change the settings after we bring them all in. So is firing is the first one. Hit and just drag it over and hit get is firing. Jump button down. Sprint button down. Is playing anims. Pitch. Yaw. Moving speed. Moving direction. Is dead. Random int. Interacted weapon. Saved body materials. Is cloaked. And weapon camera is active. So those are all the ones that we're going to bring over under replicated. I'll clean these up a little bit. All right. So that's the one that has the most. So we're actually going to now just there's 4 of them under rep notify. So crouch button is down. So crouch button down, drag that into rep notify. Once again, just do gets on those. Show crosshair. Health current. And show sniper scope. So those are all the rep notify ones. So shrink that down. And then the final one is not replicated. There's just 3 here. So we are going to do HUD. Last previous zoom value. And current zoom position. So those are the ones that are the most important for this. So those are the only 3 we need for those. And so we don't need to change any settings here because these ones are all correct because we are bringing these over, but we will want to have them for reference going back and forth to make sure that all these, for instance, health current, the default value will be 100 because you'll have 100 health. This is something you could change, but we'll want to make those all the same so your character doesn't die immediately upon spawning in. So go ahead and select all those, right click, hit copy, and then go to a blank area of the ALS base character, paste that in there, and then just quickly go through and create all of these. So if you right click, hit create variable as firing, I'll jump through and do all these, and then we'll set their values and whether they replicate after this. There may be a way to do this all in a few steps, but this is how I've been doing it. So all right, so we've got all these created. And so now, what I'm actually going to do, if you have two monitors, I'm just going to drag this other one so I can quickly go back and forth so that on the screen I'm not constantly going and selecting the other one. So is firing, on all these, they need to be replicated. So I'm going to hit replicated. One thing to keep kind of the folders and the way that they're sorted and left the same, I'm going to put them in the same category as well. So on is firing, it's under current status. Once again, that's not required, but if you want to keep them similar, so for referencing maybe back and forth, that will make it a little bit easier. So go ahead and do replicated on these. And then I will tell you if one of these is not under current status. And what you can do afterwards is just kind of run through and make sure they all say replicated. Now, random int is not under current status. What that is doing, I think the only use for it is that it actually goes through, picks a random number, and that is how it chooses the death animation. So that is your death animation that it chooses. And so if you go through and convert this to ragdoll afterwards as a possibility and don't have preset death animations, you can pretty much get rid of some of that code, but I'm not going to cover that here just because I don't want to overcomplicate anything. So random int, interacted weapon, and save body materials were not under a category, just the default, and is cloaked is under current status if you're trying to keep those all the same. And same with weapon camera is active. So that's all the replicated ones. The next ones need to be rep notify. So just current status on these, rep notify. One thing you will want to do differently on this one is first you do select rep notify, put 100 health in there. We'll just set that right now. And that will be the custom setting that's on there. If for some reason you wanted your character to have 200 health, you could do that. All right, so now we're going to not replicated. Those are, the HUD is not going to have a custom setting, so you can leave that as it is. But the last previous zoom value, that is going to be set to 300 by default. So set that one to 300. And the current zoom position, you can leave that as default. So go ahead and compile that. You might want to save that just to make sure everything is working correctly. And then let's go through and choose. There's one thing we need to do is make sure that all of the interfaces and everything are existing, so we have all the functions and everything that we need properly. So one thing you'll notice, if you look at the weapon component system, it does have this BPI weapon component. So that's the interface. So you want to select that. It's WPN if you want to find it quickly. All right, compile that. And then also you'll notice something custom on this is it has character weapons. You get that by hitting the drop down under Add Components. Type weapon, you'll see AC character weapons. We will make it spelled the same. Let's take off the AC underscore. There we go. So now we have the character weapons and we have the interface that was on there. And so now we're going to go through and start making some of the other settings similar on this. So we need to go through the interfaces. And let's go ahead and just start opening these up. If you want to compare to make sure you're doing the right thing, you can go into the weapon components interfaces and match these up. So they will be in a little bit different order. So let's go ahead and we'll just start with what the order is here. We'll find current health, bottom. That's just that variable that we created called current health. So you could either copy that one or you can open up this current status here. You'll see current health in there. Drag it over, hit get, drop it in there, and that is going to set the current health. So same thing with is cloaked. And once again, you can verify any of these that you want. Most of them will be just variables, but we will verify that as we go. All right, current camera. It's the player camera. So on this, they aren't exactly the same name, but we're just going to drag in the TP camera, the third-person camera, and the Boolean that says, is the weapon camera active? So weapon camera is active. Hit get there. And that will work with the current camera system that we're using. So, all right. So we will now move on to character weapons component. For this, you actually drag in the weapon component that we added here. So drag that down, drag it there, and that will make sure that it interacts with the component on your character. All right. So this one's a little bit different. So you need to character weapons. You need to drag that over, hit get. And you can verify this. It's just an is valid, but we want to make sure it's the right one because there's two types of invalids, and I'll show you which one that is. So choose the one that has the little green symbol on it. So is valid, and that should be all you need to do for that one. Is sprinting, so is sprint button down. So number of death animation, that's that int that I was telling you about that's random. So get random int, drag that over, that'll make it play a random death animation. Pitch and yaw, just drag those over, get pitch. Get yaw, connect those up. And once again, you can always go through, just make sure if you're questioning whether or not you're choosing the right one, just pick it over here, and that way you can verify it. Jump button down for his jumping. Crouching. You just want to do, let's see, crouch button down. is dead. Drag that variable over. So speed and direction, that's moving speed. Moving direction. Current weapon. I think this is just the interacted weapon, but let's make sure. Okay, so actually it's character weapons, so we actually have to pull the reference for that. So character weapons. And then you saw here it's current weapon reference. So you can drag off of that current weapon reference. So it's a get. Put that where we want it. Drag it up. And then get mesh. So you want to actually select the mesh from the upper left, drag that down, and connect it. And it'll make sure it's communicating with the right one. So the next thing that we want to do is actually create a missing macro. So check not dead. So we're going to create that now just so we don't have any issues. So hit on the ALS base character, hit macros, plus macro, we'll create one. I copied and pasted the name if you didn't notice, but it's check underscore not underscore dead with each word having the first letter capitalized. So you can select here if you want, Control C that, paste it in there as the name. Then you will see there's an input and an output with no connections. So we're going to open this up. It's pretty much a simple check not dead. I mean, it's just, is it dead? No? Okay, move forward. But this is going to be used in some of the other blueprints that we're going to be using. So go ahead and paste that into the new one. All you have to do, you don't have to select inputs and create an exec there. Just drag it from the left side of the branch to the input. Then drag from true to the output. And now you're pretty much identical to what that was. So you now have your macro. And those should all be created. So that's a majority, I think, of what we're trying to do for that. Let's verify. So that's our interfaces. Let's check on the functions, because I think there's some things we're going to have to do on the functions. So we'll start, since there's some extra ones in the new one, we'll start this time from my character and look at the functions. So okay, so we're going to do show crosshair. So find show crosshair on here, and this is under functions. So show crosshair, you'll see that there's nothing in there. We need to put the code in there. So just copy all that, paste it under the ALS base character, and there you go. See that created that properly. And we'll want to go just through each of them. So onrep show sniper scope. Select everything. Just connect it up. All right, crouch button down, select everything. You will notice one thing here that's not quite right, and that's the camera boom. So let's go ahead and fix that right now. You'll see that ours is called TP spring arm. So go ahead and drag that spring arm out here. You'll see it's now connected, and then we'll just replace that and get rid of the camera boom. So you can do that twice, or you can copy paste that one. And then we'll connect up the second one. All right, there we go. So now it's using the correct spring arm that connects to that camera. All right, so we want to now do health current. And then a message that actually I don't think it actually uses this, so it's not over there. You don't have to do this. It's probably something he was using for testing. So go ahead and leave the no ammo and current weapon out of there. I don't think it ever actually references that. So we now have all these. One thing we want to do is open up the construction script on both. So you'll notice on the construction script of the weapon component system, there are some things that it sets. And so you'll want to put that at the end of this other one. So just drag, connect that. All right, now we are pretty close to having exactly the same. So go ahead and save both of these just to be safe. And what I'm going to do is do a quick backup just to make sure, in case I have to step back and undo some of this, that it doesn't, that I don't have to start from scratch. So this is a good point. I think everything up to this point is working correctly. I'm going to close a lot of these tabs just so that we can actually see the names of the ones we're working in. Okay, so go ahead and open up Event Graph, and you'll see that there's a lot of stuff here. And then same thing, open up the Event Graph on your character. These you can actually delete now. So this is under the base character. We're not going to be using these anymore. They're all created. They're all ready to go. And so we can go ahead and delete those and not have any concerns. The same thing on this side. There's the one that we created to copy over. We can delete those just to kind of clean up after ourselves. Now what we want to do is select everything here. So select it all, right click on one of the things, and then hit copy, or you can hit Control-C. And then we're going to want to kind of go to a big open area because that was a lot of stuff. And then we're just going to drag it out here. Now, there's going to be a number of things that didn't work properly. First of all, you will notice that our macro we created does not copy over correctly. So we will have to add those, and I'll show you how to do that. But select everything. Probably when after you dragged it, if I would have clicked out, it would have kept them selected. Right-click after everything is selected. Right-click on one of the things and hit Refresh Nodes. That will make it so that a lot of those errors, the red symbols you saw, actually go away. And then let's start fixing, first of all, some of the things that are missing. You'll notice, and this happens with other programs that you go through and merge together, you'll see custom event. One thing you can actually do is do a search. And usually if you've seen custom event 1, custom event, you see numbers after them. That means that there was a duplicate on one of the events. So let's look back and look at tick. And we see that that needs to go under event tick. So what I'm going to do is select this whole box, cut it, and then under event graph, find event tick. That's just going to take you over to the right here. I'm going to paste this over here so we can kind of keep those things together because we need to, in a way, merge them a little bit. If you ever get these red symbols, red things like this, just right-click, refresh node, and it'll fix that up. So let's go ahead and let's move the event tick over here. And what we can do to kind of make this easy is this will add another sequence here. We can delete this event tick. Now, one thing that is missing here is actually, and you'll see this, that not dead. So let's go ahead and go to the macros, drag in, check not dead. That's all working properly as it should. So all you have to do is drag this one into the left, drag the right into the tick. And that should be connected up as it was before. So we'll go ahead and just going to look it over, make sure everything looks correct. And that does. All right, let's clean up a little bit. All right, so that takes care of the event tick. Now, we still had one that wasn't. I don't know if that was an event begin play, but let's type custom. You'll see custom event. Yeah, so that's the begin play. So go to the same place, just kind of verify, check with yourself. But you'll notice right in the middle there, There's a begin play that just needs to drag over there. So what I'll do is, once again, select it all, hit cut. And then we will just want to, under event graph, find begin play. This one, I'll show you how to put it in there, because you'll notice that he collapses a lot of things in the Locomotion system. So let's go ahead and open up a begin play. And then we'll just bring this into here. And so we can actually go through and merge some of these. So first of all, you want to right click and hit refresh nodes. And then we can just drag inputs to the left a little bit here. Now you could have just done a sequence or something off of the other one, but I'm just going to show you how to do this. So we'll drag this up here. And then let's drag them properly. Delete this custom event that was there because that's not needed. We'll delete the begin play here. All right, so now that the begin play is integrated. So let's go ahead and go back to the event graph. So one thing we don't want to forget is that we had that macro. Now, you may not be sure how many macros are missing because all they are blank spots, and you'll have code that doesn't connect. So what you need to do is, on the place that was the source, is right-click, check not dead. Hit find references. You'll see that there's 3 references to that. There's the event tick, which we did. The check not dead. One thing you may want to do is, because you want to look at this and see, okay, well, these are all things that we would do most likely when we're alive, right? But what about ragdolling? Ragdolling would be something that you would do when you're dead. So we need to be careful of where we place this, because check not dead is something that was created in the weapon component system. It may benefit the movement system, but you might want to be sure that it's not going to mess with functionality. So that's why we just put it to the right. You could play around with maybe putting it here if you wanted. I don't know if that would mess with the ragdoll, but right there should take care of what needs to be done for the weapon system. All right, so now you saw that there's a second one. So that is after scope. So when you define scope in the original code under ALS, and if you zoom out, you'll see it's on the very right-hand side. So see right here, there's something not connected, and that's just because check not dead is missing. So all you have to do is drag it in there, connect those up. That will now, zooming in for the scope, will work correctly. Now also the last one under stealth. So press Z. Actually make sure your character stealth. And so we will drop that in there. Let's save all this just to make sure that Unreal doesn't crash and mess everything we've done. Okay, so now now we're going to go through and start fixing some of these problems, because you'll notice that there's a lot of issues with, for instance, get the camera. That camera is not the correct camera, so we have to replace these with the TP camera. One trick you could have done at the beginning, but trying to do this for the average user, is actually rename the cameras in the old system to match the cameras in the new system, and then it would have automatically connected up. But for people who don't follow directions 100%, wanted to do something that would be the least likely to have a problem. But that's one trick that you can do, is just name them the same and then you don't have to worry about that. Same thing with the camera boom. That's going to be the TP arm. Place that. Just so you know, I'm holding control, left control, and then clicking and dragging if I want to move one of those. If you haven't tried that before, just saves a little time. I hit compile to show me the remainders that need to be done. Okay. We'll skip some of these because some of these are the inputs that aren't the same. We'll fix that in a minute, but we're going to keep going through the cameras just to make sure those are all correct. All right, so we are now just down to the different inputs that are not correct. And so let's go ahead and look at some of these because some of these are duplicates. We've got sprint, which we do have sprint on the movement system. So we don't need to do all the same things. We'll actually have some things that are probably duplicate. I'm not, as I said, not going to try to fix some of the things. You'll be able to go in afterwards and kind of clean up the code and start customizing a little bit more. But let's go ahead, select all of this, right click, choose cut, go to find result, type sprint. I think sprint action. One thing you can do is type action if you want to see the various inputs there are. So we have sprint action. And then you can see where it does this in the Locomotion code. So we're going to put this over here. Whenever you paste, make sure you right click and hit refresh nodes. And then I'm going to bring over the sprint code to look at it and say, all right, well, what do we need to do to bring this in? Because when you sprint, you want it to change the gate to be running. And so really what we can do is just add this in. So we'll probably want to add this in towards the end. And that should work fine for this set right here. So go ahead and drag that over. We need to give ourselves a little bit more room. Okay, so once it's done all those things, some of this is kind of seems like duplicate, but you'll have to go through and kind of clean up between the two systems a little bit afterwards. And now we want to use, we don't want to use the sprint action because this is the one that doesn't work correctly. If you look at action sprint, so you will want to replace so that you can actually get rid of this one. This tells the weapon component system it's not sprinting anymore, so just go ahead and drag that from here to here, and we'll delete the sprint action. So you now have the one that's called sprint action. Correctly, when it's pressed down, tells the weapon system we're going to sprint, switches the camera to far away, gets out of the scope, and then here we'll tell the movement system that we want to actually run. And then the same thing, we're telling it that we're no longer running. So that takes care. You can now hit compile. You see that the error about the input's gone. We now have the zoom in. So this isn't a feature we had before. So we actually want to create these actions. So all you do is look at the name and say input action, zoom out. So we want to go to edit, project settings, go to the input section, open up action mappings. Then you want to hit the plus above that. So you add one extra one. Just type zoom with capital Z and then capital IN. We want to set that to be the mouse wheel up. Same thing. You want to have zoom out with all capital OUT. And you want that to be mouse wheel down. And then what we will do is recompile that. Those two errors are going to go away. All right, those are gone. We now have the mouse input. This is actually duplicate. So we can get rid of this whole thing because it's not doing anything beyond what the code for the Locomotion system is actually doing. So select all that, hit delete, compile. You see that takes away 2 more errors from us. So we are now down to crouch, jump, move right, and move forward. So let's go ahead and I've looked at this closely. I'm not going to kind of break through it right now, but we don't, on the Locomotion system, we don't really want to not be able to sprint. You don't want to be able to not hold down shift when you are moving right or left. We actually have different speeds, and I don't like this functionality. As the weapon system, if you're holding down sprint, actually it keeps you moving backwards. They don't prevent that, but it runs forward while moving backwards. It's more of a bug. So delete that whole thing. We don't need it. Compile. You'll see we are down to crouch and jump. So let's highlight all of the jump, cut that, and then we're going to go to the input action. Actually, it's input jump action is the one that we want. So here's our jumping for ALS. So let's go ahead and paste this over here. Once again, right-click, refresh nodes, and then drag this one over. And then let's look how we can combine these. So there's some specific code to the weapon system that we want to keep. But what I look at is, all right, at this point here is where we're really jumping. This is just calling that. So give ourselves a little room because we're going to expand on this a little bit. One thing you can do is actually replace that. Because we're not using this jump. All right, so that is there. Just the one jump that we need. And then we want to put these in. And these are going to go, you see where it actually hits jump right here? We want that to hit right there. Let's drag all of this over. And then let's drag these 4 items right here. Hold down Control if you want to click that one. Let's make enough room for that to be able to fit in there. Now remember, this one is duplicate, so we can get rid of that, but we need to make sure false goes to this jump right here. True goes to right there. If you're crouching, when you hit jump, it then just stands you up. So that's a nice feature of that. We'll bring this down nicely around this. And then stop jumping. We want to just move this over a little bit. And then we'll just add this to the end to tell it to stop jumping. Delete that. So now that's all jumping code. I'm not trying to clean it up or do anything too crazy on it right now. We just want to get it working. Same thing with crouching. Now this isn't a normal crouching thing. This is actually coming and calling this. But let's go ahead and open all of this. So cut that, and then we want to go to our actions and find, it's actually stance action. I don't know, I don't like that name, but stance action is actually the crouch. Let's go ahead and paste this here. Actually, it's not pasted there, there's not very much room. So let's pull it up here. And then we'll bring our stance action up there as well. Make sure you refresh the nodes after you copied that. All right, so where it was going to hit crouch, because we're going to call this in the kind of the proper way here. So just select the one here where it says crouching to crouch, drag that together. And the one where it says uncrouch, drag that to crouching with the set crouching unchecked. And then we're going to delete this input action crouch because that's not being used. And then if you want to drag this down, we could size this box correctly. And then bring that code in there because that's just calling this and setting a notify. So, all right. So there we have our crouching. I'm going to name this to crouch because I just don't like it being called stance. Now, if you hit play, you will notice things. Moment. All right. One thing we're going to do is now set that the weapon actually starts with the character. So character weapons, you want to go to that under my character. And you'll see the custom setting here is initial weapons. What it does is adds a pistol. So right click on the top of that and hit copy where it says initial weapons. And then go over to your base character and select character weapons. And then the same thing, you want to right click where it says initial weapons and hit paste. Compile, save that. That should be. It's not doing it yet, so we'll just still fix some things. But when it does go through and add the weapons to the character, you'll see that it adds a pistol to that. Another thing that I like to do under the character is make it so that the camera follows the back of the character, because you'll just want to make sure that that is set correctly, because it will mess with you if you don't do that correctly. So under state values, you want to have it, instead of velocity direction, you want to change it to looking direction. So this is the ALS base character under that blueprint, and then on the right-hand side under Advanced Locomotion System, go to State Values and select ALS Rotation Mode and choose Looking Direction. So that'll make it so that it actually follows behind the character. For running around. All right. So let's take a look and make sure that we've set everything up correctly here. So we have our event begin play, and we successfully copied that over. We have our component, we have our interfaces all added. We'll just make sure we didn't miss anything else. So one thing that's not going to be working correctly is that you'll actually have some keys that conflict. So we'll have to go through and take a look. For instance, the number 1 here. That is the same as this select rotation mode. So I'm actually going to delete. So if you look here on the main blueprint, and then on the player input graph, you can actually do a search for this under find results if you would like, but find select rotation mode. We want to delete these because these are actually set to 1 and to 2 in the project settings. But that's going to conflict with some of the weapon code, and I don't really care at this moment about switching back and forth. So I'm going to remove these totally, because you'll see here it's set to 1. The other one was set to 2. So let's go ahead and close that. And that gets rid of that conflict. The same thing with, you could use the walk if you want to, just for testing. The camera action, that's something we're going to have to do, because you'll have a camera action for the weapon system, and then this is for ALS, and so that's going to be a conflict. And so we want to make sure that we go through and fix that so they don't have weird camera issues. So let's go ahead and find where the camera is. I'll do a search here. think it was the V key. Actually, wait. Oh, okay. So here's one of the conflicts. So now I like having V. He has, I think, C for camera. For me, I use C for crouch. So let's fix some of these up really quick. You don't have to do this, but I like to hit V for camera, and I hit the wrong keys when I'm testing. So let's go ahead and delete this. I don't need R for reload. You don't want to have that conflict. So delete those ones. Same thing with M. I don't need all of those with the weapon component system. So I'm going to get rid of a number of these. And you could add those back if you would like to later. And just verifying that. Now, one thing that is a conflict is the aim. So you need to highlight this, hit cut, and you'll notice that we have a right mouse button here. The right mouse button is for aiming, and that's in both things. So we just need to find it on the list here. There we go. All right, so here is our right mouse button. And so we will bring the code over and then decide how we want to do this. I don't really want to use, let's try it without even selecting this aim action here. So actually we do want the name because we want to get rid of this and actually have it be an input. So just replace those right there, delete right mouse button, and then you're actually setting it through the proper settings. Let's try it without this because it seems to create conflicts because this is doing specific things with the camera and then ALS is trying to do them as well. And that would be because we haven't set the controller. We have merged successfully the main character, but we have not set the player controller. And so you could do this under your project settings, or you can do it here under world if you have something selected here, which you probably do. Hit the player controller and choose the PC weapon component. And so now we have you'll get an error after you do that saying that it tried to play an animation probably, but that is because we are missing some things. Now, here's the problem you might run into that why you would want to merge this initial. So let's go ahead and hit browse here and get back to this. See how the mannequin has a mesh there? Well, if you go to this ALS-based character, there's no mesh. And so you have things that are trying to interact with this mesh. So what we're going to do really quick is either you could go through and replace references, which I don't recommend to go to this one, but let's make it so we don't even need this one. So let's save everything really quick. For good luck, let's just do a fix up redirectors, make sure everything is good to go on that. And then we're going to go through and get rid of this one because it mainly just causes problems. And the way that you want to do that is to open it up. You'll see these settings that are custom. So the first thing you want to do is select this skeletal mesh. You can hit the search there. It'll highlight it. Then go in the ALS-based character, select mesh, and then hit the left arrow right here. See, it places it there. Now, it's not going to be in the right place because you need to set these settings. So right click under the mannequin character, right click location, hit copy, go to it, paste it where it says location under the mesh. Same thing with rotation. Paste it there. All right, it's now facing the right direction. The animations aren't correct, so you want to hit search where it says anim class under the mannequin character, and then hit the left arrow on the base character. Fill that in. All right, now he's doing the proper animations. You can hit compile here. And you'll notice that what said was custom settings have gone away. So now what we can do to help find these custom settings is they're buried pretty deep, just to make sure that the character still moves in the way that the other one was meant to move. Hit the little eye in the upper right of the mannequin character and hit only modified properties. You'll see under advanced locomotion system, there's two things here. Override materials is only if you want it to have that brown color. I personally don't care about that, so I am not going to, I'm not even going to reset that. It's going to go away. The character you now see is white. That's fine. All right, so under the movement system, you can't highlight the whole section. You have to actually do these one at a time. So let's find where we're at. We need to go to the advanced locomotion system. And then under movement system, there's different speeds set here. All right, so we got walking speed. That's the same, but running speed, you can right click and hit copy, or you can remember that number and type it in over there. Right click on, if you right click the whole thing, just right click on it and hit paste, puts it there. Close this one for now. We'll come back to it. Sprinting speed, put that there. Just work your way through these. Walking acceleration. And this is just going to make it so that it's the same as the demo. Make sure you always do the right ones. Running acceleration. Walking deceleration. Running deceleration. I think the last one is running ground friction for the section. Go ahead and hit compile. You will notice in the other one that those all went away. And then we have some custom values under camera targets, looking direction, standing, and then for run and sprint. So let's go ahead and now you can right click on the whole run section. So you need to find the same place. So camera targets, looking direction, standing. One thing you could do is do a filter. And now you see we just have that section. So we want to match this up. So this is going to be run, the whole run section under looking direction. Right click there, hit paste, updated that value. If you notice, it's only changing the camera lag speed. You could just do that one as well. It's not going to make too much of a difference. So there's for sprint. We'll hit compile. It should take most of those things away. Just narrowing it all down. And now we're to the head socket. So it needs to know where, when you go to first person, to attach the head socket. So you can either select that text or right click on the title of it, go to camera system, and we'll type first person camera socket. All right, hit paste there. It's now attached it to the head. We'll compile this. There's now no custom settings. Everything is identical. You could save that if you wanted to make a slight change, but we're going to delete it, so it doesn't really matter. So under this ALS-based character, hit browse to go back there. You see this mannequin character, hit delete. And then we're going to choose the ALS-based character, replace all those references. It's going to give you an error. That's fine. Hit save, and then right-click on the content. Let's fix all those redirectors up, make sure everything is working correctly. Hit save. Let's do it again. I'm actually going to close this and reopen it just to make sure that everything is good. And while I'm doing that, I'm actually going to make a backup really quick. Okay, so that is backed up. So now we're going to do the anim BP. So this is what's going to control when you, let's say you equip a weapon, you dequip a weapon, it reaches back behind your back, grabs the weapon. When you're lifting the weapon and running around and the upper body is actually doing an aim down sights, all those things are going to be done via the anim BP. So we're going to have to copy some of those things because we have 2 anim BPs at the moment. Make sure that all our redirectors are good. So I just want it so that, okay, now it doesn't repeat that over and over again. All right, so now we want to go to characters, and then under advanced locomotion, we want to go to characters and then mannequin, and you'll see the mannequin anim BP. Open that up. And the same thing, you'll want to go to weapon component animations and then choose anim BP main. Okay, so we have a lot of things in their tutorial for integrating the weapon component system. He just says to use this, but we have so many things happening in our ALS system that we need to combine these two together. So this one is ALS. You see that it compiles and everything currently is working. And then here's the anim BP, which is for the weapon component system. First thing we want to do is create this function, because this function is not going to exist on the other one, called can jump. There is a space there, so make sure you click it, copy the name, create the function. You'll see it's right here. Go ahead and open it up here. And we will copy and paste that. Now, one thing you'll notice, if you don't look closely, you'll see there's actually a Boolean here called should jump. So let's make sure that we recreate that. Select the can jump under inputs, hit plus, and then if it's, make sure that says Boolean and then should jump. Hit enter in there, and you'll need to drag this over. We're going to be missing a number of variables on this, so we'll kind of go through as we work through it. So create variable jumping. So you'll see that that's not working correctly. Create that. We do want to make sure that it is replicated, so we want to make sure we set that as replicated here. All right, so that got rid of that error. The other thing, you'll just verify this one does not have any kind of special interfaces, so you should be fine. You don't need to go through and do any of that. So we will ignore all that. All right, so now we need to go through and first go to the event graph. See all this stuff here. We're going to copy it. Now this is from the weapon component system, so the anim BP main. Just highlight all that and then go to the event graph on this other one. Paste it. And once again, we have some duplicates. So custom event. There are things that, like here, are supposed to be doing something, and then that becomes a problem. So we want to look between the two systems. First of all, we're going to create this variable. It is not replicated. I don't think this actually changes, so whatever that is doesn't matter, I don't think. So right-click under the mannequin and create this and compile it. Same thing, you have your character reference. It is not replicated. One thing you can do, because there is actually duplicate code here. If you look, you're setting the ALS-based character here. So rather than recreate this and do it in the incorrect way, well, let's kind of do two birds with one stone. So the ALS-based character, on the lower left, you want to drag that out. And then replace that reference. That's going to be through a number of places. But that does allow you to be able to delete this whole section up here. So that's that is the one that was, if you look here, the event blueprint initialize animation. That's happening here, but you see in the same thing, it's creating one to the proper. So ALS base character is the one we actually want, not the generic character. So we're going to have to go through and replace those. While we're doing this, we'll go and create some of these other variables and just work through. So yaw is not replicated, so you can create it as is. Left-hand offset is replicated. So if you look over here, left-hand offset replicated. That's the only thing you need to do for that. And then we have a number of these character references. So this is where we want to bring in the base character. That's another trick you can do, is drag it to the left side, but you got to be careful. You can accidentally drag it a little bit too far to the right, and it will do a make instead, and then it'll bring an extra thing in there. But if you're pretty good with your aim on that, you can just run through these and change them all out. One reason I do this is I just, there you see I did one to the right. I just don't like having the duplicate references. Plus, they're actually referencing different things, which we'll want to make sure isn't an issue going forward, that some things may actually need to be changed to refer to the ALS rather than to a standard character, because the weapon system did not have a special character variable type. But we'll compile it after this and see. Now this is something different. So right click and hit create variable, current weapon type. Let's just make sure that is replicated, also under a category called weapon. Another thing is that there was a default on there. Let's see if that actually creates. So do that, weapon, replicated, compile. They had shotgun as default. I don't know that that really matters, but we'll go ahead and duplicate what they did. All right, so we're going to do create a variable for has weapon. Let's just make sure that that it's not replicated. It's not, but it is under that. These are the only two that are under a special name. So we'll go ahead and do that just to keep consistency. Okay, we will set the pitch here. So create that variable. It should not be replicated. It is not. Set the random death anim. That is not replicated, so we're fine just creating it. Set death as a Boolean. Not replicated. Is playing anims, another Boolean, not replicated. Set fire Boolean, it's not replicated. Set sprinting. That is replicated, so make sure you replicate that one. Set crouching, not replicated. And we'll just do a quick verify, because you saw that some were, so jumping is replicated, sprinting is replicated. One thing we just want to verify is that sprinting replicated and jumping is replicated. So that should be correct. All right, so now we don't have any errors. Now, whether or not anything is kind of doing duplicate stuff, we will worry about that later. But we've narrowed some things down. We've got all these together, and we'll be happy with that for now. So let's go ahead and move on to the anim graph. So here is the locomotion system. Here's the weapon component system. We're going to highlight everything from the weapon component system. Hit copy. And then just below that, I'm going to paste it. Okay, so we will do that, and then let's just do a quick compile. No errors. All the variables are all created and everything. But this is the only one in action right now. And so we'll want to make sure that we go through and combine these together in the proper way. Now, I don't like to use the aim offset from this one, but from the weapon or from the locomotion system. But we do want to use this variable here for the X and Y of the aim offset, because I found that works better than actually using these yaw and pitches. So one thing I like to do is just copy that and start pasting through each place that you see, and then drag that down, and then delete those ones. And it's just through a couple places here. And you might be able to get to a point where you actually could remove yaw and pitch from this totally, but as I said, I'm not going to go through that right now. So I think that pretty much takes care of all of those. And so we really don't need this, and we don't need that. But this locomotion is all the one that we need for the locomotion system. So we don't want to use, because the one from the weapon system is fairly basic. So actually what we want to do is, for now, move that here and then replace it. And then what we're going to do is bring this other code, since we don't need this anymore. We'll break this link and drag it down. All right, so we now have just the kind of the end code that was there, and we will connect that at the end of the weapon code, which is fine. We're ignoring that. We have the state machine going into the state machine for the locomotion system going into all that weapons code. But we're going to need to kind of go back and forth. Now, either you could open, here's the one that's inside of the locomotion system, but you'll find you're kind of jumping back and forth. So what I would do is actually find the same place here and do that in the other tab that is the anim BP for the weapon system, because we mainly just need to copy information out of it. And then we want to go back and open up the information for the weapon, or for the locomotion system. So go ahead and open up locomotion. And then in there, you will see another one called locomotion. And what we want to do is open up, you'll notice under idle, we have here some of these things that we want to kind of move over. So we have idle. And then under not moving, under the weapon, or the locomotion system, open that up, and then not moving state machine. And then you have your normal idle, which means you're not holding a weapon, because what we will do, actually, I won't do this, but what you can do is actually have it detect that you have a weapon in your hand and then switch you to the ready stance. So we're only going to do the left foot idle. We're going to copy all of this from the weapon component and then paste it over here. And then I want the pose for idle to look the same. So if there's no weapon, I don't want to use the weapons idle. There's no weapon, we'll put it there. Then I want to duplicate that because there's also this default one. And we want that there as well. So let's just kind of check this out really quick and see how much of this is working. Okay, so it doesn't like something that we've done. We'll check that over. So it's in the level. Try this again. So you'll notice here there was an error that came up. It's trying to play the montage. And so if you go to the ALS base character and then you go to the event graph under animations, you'll see here he's actually casting to this other ANMBP. Now, that's not what we want to happen because that's actually referencing the wrong place. I don't know. There's a number of other places that he's actually doing this. And so I found a way that's a little bit better for doing this. So let's go ahead and save the state of this as it is right now. We'll save everything. Let's close everything. Just all the extra things we had open. And then I'm going to actually do a quick fix up redirectors. And then I'm going to do a quick backup here just in case this breaks everything. So I have a current backup right to the point of where we're at right now. And then we want to go into the animation under the weapon component. You see the ANMBP main here. We still want information out of that, but we need to replace this because then it'll replace all those references to actually point to the right place. So what I want to do is duplicate this. And so now we have an exact copy that we can still reference from to pull things out. Go ahead and save that. And then we're going to delete this one because we don't want to have to go by hand and replace because it's in the component, it's in the character. I mean, it's all over the place that it's referencing this, and it just kind of creates a hassle. So you want to delete it and then choose the mannequin ANMBP. Then hopefully this doesn't crash. If it does, we should be fine. All right, so it is saving all of that. Right click and fix up redirectors really quick. Quite working right. Let's see if we got any errors. Nope, no errors on it. Okay, so let's go ahead and open up the anims really quick here. All right, so we've got these in here. So this is for, I did the wrong one. I think, okay, so yeah, that's correct. Let's make sure that I did this right. So this is left foot idle, so that is correct. You'll have your crouch. So let's go ahead and get into the anim graph here. So crouch, this is the crouch idle. You'll want to fix these up and add custom animations and really get into it later. But I'm just doing this for the crouched left foot because I'm only going to be doing left foot when I have a weapon in my hand. So that takes care of these two. The regular will be normal. Go back to locomotion. Now we've got moving. So when you are jogging, we're not going to do the sprint one yet. We'll just leave that for now. We'll pull this code from locomotion. This is under the old weapon code. Locomotion and then jog. And this does get a little tricky here, but we'll paste it in here. And what you want to do is say, if you have a weapon. Actually, we don't. Let's make sure that works right. Actually, he's just doing. Let's look at this. All right, so we will have it to where if you have a weapon, which would be ALS aiming, right? Well, we'll switch it out for now. I don't know that this is going to do exactly what we want. So actually, let's leave that for now. And let's just make sure that we have everything up to this point how we want. So one thing that's causing an error is the custom event. So we have one thing that was not connected properly, and so we need to fix that. So this one, if we line the two up, is under get is dead. So this is actually the update animation. So that will line up to this one right here. The easiest way to do this is just to, first of all, we're fine if it says this right here is valid. Just want to make sure that's there, and then do a sequence off of this. And then drag the second one down here off a delta time, drag it there. We'll be able to remove that. Yeah. All right. Because remember, under the anim graph, you had the forward sprint rifle. You have a sprinting action. And then under the anim graph, with the locomotion system, you have moving. You could find the sprinting in here and swap that out so he doesn't put his arms down. But I'm not going to worry about that right now because I think this is to a point now where people are trying to get it.